We have to call off tomorrow. Courtney is heartbroken about the Sephora partnership culling. We need to give her room to process right now. Please try to understand. That was the message my mother sent at 11:51 p.m. Less than a day before my 18th birthday celebration, a party had funded on my own. The message appeared while I was ironing the white linen dress I had bought 3 months earlier on clearance and hidden in the back of my closet so Courtney wouldn't borrow it. The screen lit up. I read it once, then again. I didn't cry. I didn't protest. I simply stood at my bedroom window and watched the catering van reserved 6 months earlier with my own savings roll slowly out of the driveway. The driver didn't look confused. He didn't look concerned. He had already been paid a cancellation fee. That was the exact second the compliant daughter they relied on ceased to exist. And the architect of their undoing quietly took her place. Before we get into what happened next, drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from. Has anyone ever hijacked one of your milestones with their chaos? I want to hear your story. To understand why I eventually set fire to the whole illusion. You need to understand the blueprint of my family. We lived in Buckhead, Atlanta, inside a house that resembled a tiered wedding cake and felt like an exhibit no one was allowed to touch. The chandeliers were imported. The marble floors echoed when you walked. The furniture looked expensive, but was rarely used. Even the air felt staged. My parents, Jeffrey and Cynthia, didn't raise children. They managed investments that Jeffrey believed in optics. He measured success by square footage, guest lists, and how quickly a valet ran to open his car door. Cynthia believed in proximity. She curated friendships based on proximity to status. My older sister Courtney, 26, waist price display, an influencer inflated butt followers, and a personality that only functioned at high bandwidth. Her bedroom was larger than my first apartment would eventually be. She had ring lights before most people knew what they were. She referred to family dinners as content opportunities. I was Morgan. I was 20, and I was the operations director in the shadows. I didn't merely reside there. One had been running the system since I was 14. At 14, I created my first household spreads. I color-coded expenses. It lacked irregularities. I discovered that we were spending more on catered events than on utilities. My father praised my attention to detail and then quietly began forwarding bank statements every month. At 15, I started answering my mother's mails because she didn't understand how to format attachments properly. By 16, I was negotiating service contracts. By 17, I was drafting apology emails to brand managers when Courtney posted something tone-deaf. I balanced the household finances because my father couldn't navigate Excel beyond some. I ghostwrote Courtney's college entrance essays because she couldn't define empathy without autocorrect. I organized my mother's social calendar, tracked my father's prescripts, and handled public relations claim every time Courtney posted something offensive online. When Courtney accidentally tweeted something about budget airlines being for peasants, I stayed up until 3 a.m. drafting a statement about context and growth. When my father nearly double paid a vendor because he misread an invoice, I caught it before the wire transfer went through. When my mother forgot an anniversary dinner with a family considered socially strategic, I rearranged the entire week to fix it. No one thanked me. The compensation disparity was absurd. Courtney received a $6,500 monthly allowance to protect her brand. It covered salon appointments, designer rentals, curated vacations, and aesthetic coffee runs. I received nothing. I worked late nights as a virtual assistant, handling inboxes for entrepreneurs who had less money than my parents, but more competence. I saved every dollar. I paid for me AP textbooks. I paid my set fees. I paid for the catering deposit. When I once asked my father for help with tuition applications, he leaned back in his leather chair and said, "Struggle builds character." The same week, my mother approved $18,000 for imported Italian furniture for Courtney's bedroom refresh. It's an investment in her brand, she said. I remember standing in the hallway while delivery men carrying cream-colored velvet chairs that would never be sat on. I ran the numbers in my head. That amount would have covered 2 years of tuition at a state school. You might wonder why I stayed, why I patched their crises for 20 years without tech splitting. Because I believed love was conditional. Psychologists call it the fawn response. When a child grows up in an environment where affection depends on performance, that child adapts by becoming indispensable. I believed my usefulness guaranteed my belonging. If I worked harder, if I solved faster, if I sacrificed quietly enough, eventually they would see me. But my labor was never gratitude-worthy. It was expected, invisible, mandatory. I was not the daughter. I was the infrastructure. So when I graduated valedictorian, I didn't ask for a celebration. I planned one. I found the caterer myself. I negotiated the menu. I created digital invitations and sent them privately to teachers and classmates who had treated me like a person instead of a resource. I imagined one evening where I was managing logistics, where I wasn't scanning for a potential disaster. Just one evening. Then the text arrived. Courtney lost a minor hair vitamin sponsorship worth maybe $2,000. And suddenly, my milestone became collateral damage. My birthday wasn't canceled because of logistics. It was canceled because Courtney was sad. That was the hierarchy. The next morning, the house was silent. My parents had taken Courtney to a luxurious retreat to decompress. They left a generic birthday card on the kitchen counter. Inside was a $50 bill. No handwriting, no message. Just cash. I stared at it for a long time. Then I added it to my savings stack. Not out of gratitude. Out of clarity. I didn't cry. Instead, I opened the storage unit contractee had signed months earlier under a prepaid plan. I finished packing. I moved like someone executing an evacuation protocol. Clothes. Laptop. Diplomas. Flash drives. Birth certificate. Passport. The only childhood photo where I look genuinely happy. I factory reset my laptop and external drifts. Deleted financial models. Deleted password vaults. Deleted vendor contacts. Deleted Courtney's travel spreadsheets. Then I changed every password. Banking. Utilities. Streaming accounts. Investment platforms. Email domains. I wrote them down on a single sheet of paper. At the bottom, I added one line. I am resigning from the position of daughter. I left the key beside it. I locked the door behind me. I did not look back. The studio apartment smelled like fresh paint and possibility. The kitchen was small. The closet was smaller. But this silence felt expansive. For the first time in my life, the silence didn't mean tension. It meant peace. I slept 12 uninterrupted hours that night. 7 days passed. Then the unraveling began. First, the Wi-Fi failed. Jeffrey called 3 times. No voicemail. He didn't know the provider name. He didn't the contract renewal date. He didn't. I had negotiated fiber pricing every January. I didn't answer. Then Courtney missed her Tulum flight. Her voicemail was a hurricane of screaming. She threatened to sue me for intentional sabotage. Doing nothing is not sabotage. Its consequence. Then my father missed an investor dinner. That voicemail was different. It wasn't screaming. It was fear. Morgan, call me. We need to fix this. They didn't miss me. They missed the machine I had been. From the quiet of my apartment, I realized something profound. They were never powerful. They were curated. There is a difference between possessing wealth and performing. Wealth, they performed it. The lifestyle was sustained by debt, favors, and my unpaid labor. From the front row, it looked like marble. Backstage, it was plywood and duct tape, and I had been holding it together. When I left, gravity did what gravity does. It took 12 months for silence to become permanent. In that year, I accelerated, graduated summa cum laude, landed in operations, ruled a fintech startup, negotiated equity. Built investments. Therapy helped me understand something critical. I was never invisible. I was overfunctioning in a system that required my exhaustion. Then came the credit report. Then the $280,000. Then the realization that they hadn't just lost control of the infrastructure, they had decided to cannibalize it, but that escalation and what happened in court is where the real destruction began, and I promise you, that part was surgical. Then came the credit report, then came the number, $280,000. I remember staring at it in the parking lot of that midtown complex, sunlight cutting across the dashboard. My reflection faint in the laptop screen. For a strange second, it didn't register as real. It looked like someone else's problem, someone reckless, someone careless, not me. I had built my credit the way some people build trust, slowly, deliberately, obsessively. I opened my first secured card at 18. I kept utilization under 10%. I set calendar reminders 3 days before every due date, even though autopay was on. I treated my financial footprint like a fragile ecosystem. And now it had been stripped. Mine. For accounts. 3 high-limit credit cards, 1 personal loan, opened over 11 months after I left. The signatures were digital. The contact email wasn't mine, but the social security number was mine. I scrolled through the transaction history like someone tracing a crime scene map. $18,400. Designer boutique in Miami. $12,700. Luxury villa deposit. Tulum. $9,300. Influencer retreat. $4,200. Cosmetic dermatology clinic. $3,800. First class flight upgrade. $86,000. Down payment on a leased G-Wagon. Every charge told a story. Every charge was Courtney's story. The dates aligned with her posts. I opened her public Instagram and scrolled. There she was in Tulum, hair braided, caption about hard work paying off. There she was in front of the G-Wagon. #blessed. There she was sipping champagne in a silk robe at some brand retreat. Funded by my name. I closed the laptop slowly. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I felt something colder. Clarity. This wasn't neglect. This wasn't favoritism. This was premeditated. They had made a decision. When I stopped supplying labor, they harvested credit. And in their minds, I knew exactly how it was justified. Raising me cost money. Private school tuition. Groceries. Housing. Opportunities. They likely reframed it as reimbursement, deferred compensation, family redistribution. In their worldview, I was not an autonomous adult. I was an asset. Assets are leveraged. Assets are liquidated. Assets do not press charges. They had bet on that last part. They bet I would swallow it quietly, that shame would silence me, that fear of ruining the family would override justice. They bet wrong. The first call I made was not emotional. It was strategic. I called a forensic accountant recommended by a colleague at the startup. His name was Daniel. His voice was calm, almost bored. The way surgeons sound before cutting. I explained the situation clinically. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "This isn't just fraud. It's layer identity exploitation. We'll need documentation of your departure date, residency change, device IP logs if possible. Do not contact them. Not contact them." That was important. Emotion creates mistakes. Silence creates leverage. Within 48 hours, I retained legal counsel. Her name was Helen Park. She specialized in family financial crimes. She did not blink when I said, "It's my parents." She simply said, "Family fraud is statistically more common than stranger fraud. Emotional proximity lowers suspicion." Her office was minimalist. Glass desk, no personal photos, neutral walls. It felt intentional. She asked precise questions. Did they ever have access to your social security card? Yes. Did they ever manage your mail? Yes. Did you store tax documents in the house? Yes. Do you have proof of when you moved out? Yes. She nodded once. Then this is winnable. Winnable. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Winnable. We built the case like engineers. Timeline. Date I moved out. Day IP address shifted to new apartment. Dates accounts opened. We pulled IP metadata from the credit applications. 2 originated from the Buckhead Estates static IP. One originated from a mobile hotspot registered under my father's business account. It wasn't even sophisticated. It was lazy. Helen drafted a civil complaint for identity theft, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We did not send a warning. We did not threaten. We filed. Then we served. Tuesday morning, 9:14 a.m. according to the service report. The process server approached the front door just as my father was exiting with his leather briefcase. He accepted the envelope. He signed for it. He opened it on the front steps. I imagined the moment recognition hit. The daughter who overreacted, the daughter who would come crawling back, the daughter who owed them, had just weaponized the legal system. My phone began vibrating within the call. I let them ring. The first voicemail was confused. Morgan, there's been some kind of mistake. The second was irritated. This is unnecessary. The third was panicked. Call me immediately. Then Kim, my mother. Sobbing. Double quotes. We were just borrowing it. It's family money. You can't do this. You can't sue your own parents. I listened to the voicemail once, then archived it. Because here's the thing, you absolutely can sue your own parents. And in Georgia, identity theft carries both civil and criminal consequences. The lawsuit was public record. That's what they hadn't calculated. Buckhead runs on image. Image runs on rumor. Within 72 hours, the whispers started. Jeffrey and Cynthia are being sued by their own daughter for nearly $300,000 fraud. Country club invitation slowed. To investors postpone meetings. With my father's firm citing instability, Courtney's team is filled with questions. She went private for the first time in her career. The empire didn't crack quietly. It fractured loudly. 2 weeks later, my intercom buzzed. Miss Morgan, your parents are downstairs. I paused. Then I said, send them up. I didn't rehearse this moment. I didn't need to. When they stepped into my loft, something shifted. The power dynamic was visible. My father looked smaller. My mother looked older. Courtney wasn't with them. They stood awkwardly near the exposed brick wall. This was not their marble foyer. This was my space. My father spoke first. Please. Not how are you? Not we're sorry. Please. We can settle this privately. There's no need for court. Helen had already anticipated this. Settlement is always cheaper than exposure. I'm listening. I said. My voice didn't shake. My mother stepped forward. We were going to pay it back. With what? I asked calmly. Silence. Because we both knew there was no liquidity. No reserves. No emergency fund. Their lifestyle was leverage stacked on leverage. You'll ruin us, my father said. No. I replied, you ruin yourselves. He flinched. It was subtle, but real. For the first time in my life, I wasn't negotiating their stability. I was protecting mine. I will offer a settlement, I said. They leaned forward slightly. You will liquidate the house, sell the vehicles, sell non-essential assets. You will pay off the full debt immediately. You will sign a notarized confession admitting to fraudulent use of my identity so my credit is restored. You will agree to a permanent no-contact order, violate it, and I pursue criminal prosecution. My mother began crying. Where are we supposed to live? That, I said, evenly, is not my responsibility. My father looked at the skyline through my windows. For a moment, I saw calculation. Jill time. Reputation. Financial collapse versus liquidation and exile. He knew the answer. They signed the preliminary agreement within 10 days. The liquidation was swift. The Highlands vacation property sold first, then the Porsche, then our pieces, then the Buckhead estate itself. I drove past once. There was a sold sign staked into the manicured lawn. A U-Haul sat in the driveway. My father carried boxes. My mother directed movers. Courtney sat on the curb scrolling, face tight with resentment. No ring light. No photographer. No audience. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I kept driving. 6 months later, my credit score was restored. Every fraudulent account closed. Every balance paid. The signed confession ensured full removal from my record. Helen asked if I wanted to pursue criminal charges anyway. I considered it. But prison wasn't the goal. Freedom was, and indifference had already replaced anger. That was the final evolution. People think revenge is explosive. Is and single quotes T. The most devastating response to exploitation is withdrawal. I withdrew labor. I withdrew access. I withdrew identity. Without me, they collapsed. Without them, I thrived. Today, my loft feels different. It's not just a space. It's evidence. I built my career without their network. Build stability without their name. Build peace without their approval. I don't have parents. I don't have a sister, but I have something better. Autonomy. And here's what no one tells you. The opposite of love isn't hate. Hate still ties you to the story. Indifference ends it. If you've ever had to burn a bridge to save yourself, share this story. And if you're still standing on that bridge holding the match, understand this. Peace is waiting on the other side. Thanks for watching.